Absolute groover. What's up guys, it's Will from EDM Tips. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make house music in Ableton Live in the style of Gorgon City or other house and deep house artists. So I've been getting requests for Gorgon City for months now, so I thought I'd do it today. This is one of my In the Style of videos, which you can check the others out of there wherever they are, and also you can download all of the project files, presets and samples completely free below this video. I'm using Ableton Live 10, pretty much only the stock plugins, well one or two others, but you can follow along in any DAW because the same principles still apply. We will be going into the kick and the bass. We will be creating that house music groove. We're going to be doing some house music chords.
And the heartbeat kicks in when the drums are below.
And we're going to be getting some vocals as well, doing some sound design from scratch, a bit of mixing and some arrangement too. I'm pleased to say that my 8-week masterclass is now open. We have had students hit number 2 in the Beatport charts and even become full-time music producers from joining. So do check it out if you want to improve your music production in a really short space of time. As usual, if you dig this video, smash like. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for tutorials like this each and every week. Without further ado, let's hop into the DAW and get it done. Okay, let's do it. House music in the style of Gorgon City. First thing I'm going to do is select the right tempo. That's 1, 2, 4, and then we're going to name this bad boy. I'm not actually going to do it in exactly the same style as House Arrest, but it's going to sound pretty similar because I don't want to get done for copyright. Anyway, House Arrest, well, that's kind of pertinent at the moment, isn't it? Let's call it Tier 3. Nice one, Boris. This is weird. Now I've got this up here, I feel a bit exposed. Oh, you little voyeurs, cheeky little sausages. Let's do it. First thing, big fat kick. I've selected some anyway, just to make this quicker because I want to get you as much value as possible in this video. So first, let's put that down and then just stick that on every beat as one would expect. That is our kick. Boom, 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 boom. I want you in my room. Let's put that into green, which is the natural color of all the drums. Save it. And then next we're going to get that bass, a really cool house bass. I'm going to create two. I'm going to create a sub bass and then I'm going to create a house bass to go on top. So let's swap those around. Let's do it. Sounds. That one sounds cool. You're going to start recognizing this soon. Sub bass, I'm going to do this in the key of C minor natural, like House Arrest. So let's program in a little bass line. Now the way I'm doing this is using syncopation just to get that beat going, that groove. And then we're going to switch down an octave and then just do it on every beat. Right, now let's get that house bass on top, color it yellow, and then we are going to call it house bass. I've just duplicated that track and then we're going to create this from scratch using the operator. So this is the sound. We start with a sine wave. So let's start shaping that. First I'm going to take the sustain right down, get a bit more of a plucky sound. Bit of release. That's kind of the shape I want. Now let's load up the second oscillator. This is weird. What's this doing here? And then we are going to create a similar kind of ADSR shape for this one as well. So it matches. And you can already hear we are getting kind of where we want to go already. Let's add some spread. Yes, listen to that, amazing. How does that sound? Do we need to do it an octave lower? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab them all and hold shift, press down, and now they're an octave lower. Yes, let's add some reverb to that bass as well. A bit cheeky, a little bit naughty, but that's what we like. So I've created an auxiliary channel bass, and all I've done is just add a little bit of gain and then roll out the low end. So let's listen to the bass when we add some of that reverb on. Hear the difference? Just gives it some presence. And now with the sub bass, maybe I need to do it 1 octave lower as well. No, that's too low. What I am going to do is just roll off some of that high end of that. Cool, that is the beat. Let's group those together, call it bass, so we can control it all in as one group. And then the next thing we're going to do is get those beats in. No, we're going to make a reverse bass. Yeah, this is cool. Right, so Gorgon City are really good at making simple but, you know, really expertly crafted house beats, and you know, these reverse basses is going to be part of that. So I'm going to base it on the house bass, and I'm just going to reverse it. Well, I'm going to make it sound reversed. So first, let's just let's get rid of that. Copy and paste those. And then I'm just going to create a little reverse bass here, just at the end of the first bar. Okay, I need to copy and paste that like so. Why can't I hear that? And I'm just going to put it up to the 5th of the key as well. So I'm going to make it the G. And now let's make this sound reversed. The way I'm going to do that is just play with just reverse it so the attack's slower. Let's just loop it and have a listen. And I want it to stop as soon as the note finishes. So there, we got a reverse bass. Let's give it some reverb. Actually, no, let's leave it like that. And now I'm just adding a little bit of variation at the end, like in ACCELERATOR. So that's pretty much our bass line. Cool, next thing we are going to do is get you to download this project. Smash like, give me a hell yeah if you're digging it so far. Now let's do the drums. Lovely big fat house drums. So first thing we're going to do is get a clap. Because you need a clap, you got to have a clap. So that would be current project, clap, nice short clap. In fact, we can make it a bit shorter just by reducing the sample length here. Let's have a listen. Just so it's nice and snappy. Every other kick. Maybe a bit longer, it's a bit weird. Okay, now we need to do the open hats. Now let's do the closed hats first. Just on every other beat, get that groove going. You know, sample selection is key here. So yes, I did actually listen to some of these samples beforehand because I wanted it to be quicker. But it's all about selecting the sounds that have got the right timbre to them and go with the other sounds. Now let's get a bit of a shuffle rhythm going. So what should we... Let's try that one. Make it quieter. And we're just going to do one on every other 16th just to give it some shuffle. Nice. Already you can hear that groove going. In fact, what you might do for more variation, because it can sound a bit robotic, is reduce the velocity on every other one. And it just gives it a bit more movement. Bit more dynamics. And now we're going to add a little kind of... We're going to add a little snare to do a cheeky offbeat. You can put one there at the end. Just always using the 16ths to do these little rhythms. Lovely. And now let's get some rim shot in there, building up that groove. 808 rim shot, classic, and then we're going to get that open hat in there. Not too many, just to add that extra interest into the rhythm. And it's all about building up that groove when it comes to house music. Don't like that one. Lovely. That's a lovely, nice, deep baked slice of house music. Right, next thing we're going to do is add those open hats as promised. Let's get those 909 open hat in there, every other beat. And we can add this later in the arrangement to add more energy. And tune it to the tune. Tune it to the tune. Tune it to the track so it's a bit more in tune. Tightens it up by taking the release right down so it stops sooner and doesn't bleed on. Okay, next thing. Now we are getting into the... Oh no, we could do some more. No, let's leave the beats for now. We'll do a bit more later. I want to get these chords on the go. Now I'm not going to use an Ableton sound for this. I'm actually going to use Contact, but you can use Ableton if you find a decent organ sound for it. But I can't be bothered to look for one. So how do you feel about that? I'm going to use Contact because I know it's got some good organ sounds, vintage organs. So we want something that sounds really, really like housey. Probably up an octave. Yeah, that sounds pretty housey to me. Let's tweak these things, whatever they are. Drawbars, I believe they're called. Epic, epica, epica. Let's do something with that. Cool. Organy. So I'm just playing that in, and it's if you wanted to, you could draw in the notes, but I'm going to play this in just for quicitude. Wait, that's the wrong button. I made that mistake before. No, what's going on? What's going on? Come on then, get out of it. Let's try that again. Now it's moving around quite a lot. I guess that's... Okay, well, that's what we've got, so that's what we've got. I'm going to just tighten this up a bit. I'm not sure I do want it completely quantized, actually. I quite like the slightly organic feeling. Let's change this last chord. Yeah, they are the chords from House Arrest, but you know, whatever, they're nice chords, aren't they? Otherwise the tune wouldn't be so good. Okay, rather than me singing, which none of us need to hear, let's get on to the next thing. We are going to give me a hell yeah if you dig it, or an Amen brother, because I love that. And next week we've got something really special with the Halloween, which is probably going to have some more organs, but much spookier. I can't even be bothered. We'll do it next week. Anyway, next thing we are going to get a... Ah, yes, the big synth. Like a Hoover type synth. Let's call it Hoover. And we're going to build this from scratch as well. Let's do it with the analog. We're just going to create a really like fat sound. That's the technical term. I'm going to play with the filter envelope. It's going to be a bit like brass. And we'll have a bit of release so it can fade out. So I'm just changing the amp release. And then I'm going to change the filter release as well, so the filter closes over that same period when I let go. And now we're going to bring in, well, we've already got another oscillator, so let's just detune them. They're both saw waves. This thing, what's this? Get out of the way, mate. So we're just going to just make it a bit organic and a bit fat. And how are we going to make this fatter? I don't know. Let's leave it for now and then we'll make it fatter in a second. That's cool. And then we are going to bump that up, add a little bit of saturation on there with an amp. And we want to spread that out a bit and get it sounding wider. So take out some of the low end. And we want this really wide. So what I'm going to use is, I'm actually going to use one of these free ozone imager tools, which you can download below from Isotope. And we're going to add some pump onto that as well with a compressor, open it up, sidechain, take the input from my sidechain channel, which is up here. You can't hear it because you can see that it's going to sends only, so you can't actually hear the tick, but it's triggering our sidechain compressors. And now let's get the timing right. And we can add that to the bass as well, you know, a little bit, not too much, not that much. And that is how you get a fat beat. Now we are going to add a little bit to the organ as well. And now we are going to find a fat, tasty vocal. Now I'm going to use Loop Cloud for this, which you can get a free trial from below this. Let's just load it up, and we're going to stick in the MIDI thing. So it all syncs up with Ableton, which is pretty cool. And then basically it's a great way to find samples that are going to fit in. It's particularly good with loops, unsurprisingly, because it syncs to your DAW. But what I'm going to do is just put a cappella. We know it's in C minor because I told you it was in C minor in it. And now we just need to kind of review some of them with, let's turn it down a little bit. And I'm just playing some. Because obviously the vocal in House Arrest by, I think it's Sophie Tucker, is amazing. So finding a good vocal is absolutely key. You could use soundbetter.com, but we ain't got time for that. We're using Loop Cloud. Well, that's cool, but I want a female vocal. So big room dance hooks. How are you looking? Key minor. This is more minor than Cole. That's a t-shirt right there. More minor than Cole. Okay, I've messed up. I need the acapellas back again. Come back. It's important to get something that's got a rhythm that works. That's cool. Alright, calm down. And the right timbre as well. This is, okay, take a bit of time, but you know, it pays to take the time to get something that works well. It would be fine, but I don't know what she's talking about. Okay, alright, curveball. I'm actually going to go for a male vocal. Or it sounds kind of male, I guess. It's like... Yeah, okay, so let's buy file. Just click on it. It's downloading. Let's create an audio file into which we can drag it. And then we shall do that. So let's bring the original in. We can see it's 127 BPM. So I'll just double click on there, select Warp, Complex Pro, because it's best for vocals. 127. Now let's have a little lissy loo. Okay. Let's get this rocking. Right, my phone's going off. Unbelievable. Last week it was a bloody doorbell. Now it's the phone. Yeah, here we go. Okay, next thing is some really crazy alarm. I'm going to make an alarm synth. And then I'm going to add some more groove to those vocals, but I'm going to create something to add more tension on the drop. Let's call it alarm synth. And then it is going to go. We'll do this again with an operator. And we want this to be like a whoop whoop alarm. So let's choose a saw wave. Put the pitch envelope on. That's pretty much there already. Now, to stop that sounding rubbish and annoying, what you can do is put a reverb on it and just whack on 100% wet. Really short decay time. It softens it down, pushes it further back in the mix. Like that. Which just sounds much better already. So let's just program a couple of those in. Major laser, drop. Let's just... Okay, I'm going to colour this Hoover green because... No, I'm going to colour it cyan because that is nature's colour for synths, as we've discussed many times before on this channel. Come on, guys, I shouldn't be having to tell you this more than once. Vocal. Okay, that would be this little chap. Come on, get in there. Oh, okay. Forget you saw that. Let's forget that ever happened. Smash like, give me a hell yeah. Vocal assigned to clips, and then let's get this grooving with some more rhythm in that groove. So we're going to create an audio channel. I'll turn everything else off apart from the bass, and I was going to turn this off, but it's just dope as beep. Right. In fact, it's dope as... Now let's get some of this groove in the go. So we are going to use a loop. So we got this loop, but we only want a tiny bit of this loop. We just want a bit of energy in there. We don't want all of this like bongos and claps, and we don't need that. We just need a bit of the high-end sizzle. Cool, so it just loops, loops, loops. What I'm going to do is just duplicate it, and then I'm going to use an EQ. Well, I'll turn it right down first, and I'm going to take out almost all of it. So I'm just going to get the beats going. Like it's these really subtle things that make you know, good house music, and this is what Gorgon City are experts at this. Just really gentle, careful layering, like ear candy. Not too many main elements, but then the ones that are there are just really expertly layered and done nicely. So you might think, what's the point even having that in? It's so quiet. But this is, well, it might be too quiet, but this is off. Boring, yawn, taxi, on. Get the drinks in, lad. This is awesome. Right, and to add to that, we are going to add a bit more, one more element as well into the groove. We are going to go into the current project, use this weird click thing, and we're going to use this to, I'm just going to cut off the front of it because it's kind of got a pre-transient, and then it sounds like some kind of cartoon from the 1950s. I don't even know if this is going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to make it really low in the mix, again, just to kind of build that house groove. See, it's all these little things, like they're really, really important for getting a nice pro sound. I've done no EQ on this. I've done no reverb, done no compression. And, you know, yeah, obviously it needs work doing and the mix will have to be done, but it's sounding pretty cool. Next thing I'm going to do is just add the last bit of groove, and I'm going to use a tambourine loop. Again, really low in the mix. And this is for when everything's coming in, you know, on the last drop. So I'll do a bit of arrangement in a second as well, so stick around for that. And the last thing I'm going to do to this groove is just add a ride cymbal as well. So I'm going to make sure that only one can play at once by choosing voices 1, and then, oh, hello, sounds like ABBA now. All right, nice. Let's get the ride cymbal in there. God, it's like a whole bloody orchestra today. Orchestra of beats, that is. Let's turn it down. It's just a high-end energy we want. Those. I don't want the build up so big in that. I'll make it hit faster. Okay, next thing we're going to do is a little bit of arrangement, because House Arrest has actually got 2 sections within the beat section. So it's not just the break, but we are going to do the break as well. So what I'm going to do for that is, let's just copy this, and we're going to make sure we've copied everything, including the side chain. So we've got that pump continuing. And then I'm going to paste this over here somewhere, so we can have this as our break. You know, it's just rough. But this middle bit won't have all these beats in. It won't have the ride cymbals in, because we're going to lead into that later. You always want something to build into on the last drop. You might even take out the open hat to begin with. Definitely take out these organs. And this alarm's only coming on the last drop. And then in this track, the bass kind of switches up, as I said. Now, it takes out the house bass. So let's take that out. And then it switches up the rhythm on the bass, which is quite unusual, to be honest, for a house track. But it's quite cool as well. It works really well in this track, in house arrest. And it just switches it to this much simpler rhythm. When the organs come in. Like so. No effects, and I'm already digging it. Let's get that break going here. So the break, then we get things switched up. I can't remember what we do on the break actually, because I haven't listened to the tune for a while. Like, well, for a few hours. So I'm actually not sure what the build. Well, I do know what the build-up would do. You'd kind of build it up, wouldn't you? So I'm actually gonna switch to sustained organs here. So then it would be a case of. Which I think is probably what house arrest does. But you're continuing those same chords. And you can just make this second one into a sus2 chord, which is what it gives it that lovely churchy sound. And also the fact that it's a freaking church organ. Well, it's not really a church organ. It's more of a jazz organ. Right, as I said, I don't know exactly what the tune does at this point, so I'm going to just wing it and make my own, kind of bring the bass in by taking out the... I'm going to actually do it. I'm going to take those down an octave. And you can hear I've filtered out that low end. So then we could bring in some rhythm as well. The way we're going to do that is add some kick. I'm kind of just freestyling it at the moment now, guys. You know, I've lost my way, but this is pretty much that vibe. All the elements that they've got in that track, House Arrest by Gorgon City. So check it out. But what we're going to do is just take down the volume of this kick. Just take it down. Take that volume down. Just for the break. Don't worry, you'll get it back. So let's stick it there. Whack-a-doodle do. It's just to kind of nail in that rhythm, because it can be a bit confusing to listeners. That tambourine loop's all sorts of the wrong timing. So again, you've got an EQ that comes in just for the break, and then boom. Okay guys, there you go. Tune in next week. Don't forget to do that because I've got a Halloween special. It's the first Halloween special I've ever done. I hope you've liked this voyeuristic little view of the world. Don't get a god complex. But I'm going to do more work on this track now. Then you can download it with all the samples, all the presets, completely free. And thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends if you like it. And until next time, cheers and happy producing.
The heartbeat kicks in when the drums are beating loud, and I can only see